Every little thing you think that you need. Every little thing you think that you need. Every little thing that's just feeding your greed. Oh, I bet that you'd be fine without it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Minimalists podcast, where we discuss what it means to live a meaningful life with less. My name is Joshua Fields Milburn.
My friends call me R-Dog, but you can call me Ryan Nicodemus. And together we are the Minimalists.
I've never called you R-Dog.
Well, you should.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 65. Today's episode is called Tour. We're going to talk about touring, but really we're going to talk about some of the routines while we are on the road, some of our favorite places to go on the road. We're going to talk about travel and how we pack for tours, and we're going to talk about the Less Is Now tour as well. So, Ryan, you and I just announced the Less Is Now tour. This podcast is going up on Thursday, which is during the pre-sale period. We wanted to give our audience the first crack at getting the best seats in the house before they go on sale to the general public. So if you're listening to this on Thursday, March 9th, 2017, you have less than 24 hours to get your pre-sale tickets using the code MINIMAL over at theminimalists.com/tour. And if you go there, that basically just means that you'll have access to the best seats. There's also, we're doing something with, in many of the events, we're doing VIP events beforehand. So not only do you get the best seats, but we're going to spend 45 minutes before the event with a small group of people working out some new material, asking some questions, having some discussions with people. And we're working on some special side projects that we're only going to share with a few handfuls of people, a few dozen people in each city. And then we'll have the larger presentation of being on tour as well. So when we hit the road for this tour, it's going to be larger theaters for the most part. But we're going to give a talk about minimalism. We have a brand new presentation. We're working in some old material, some new material, and we're recording a live version of the podcast. We're doing a live version of Ask the Minimalist. We'll answer your questions. We'll dish out free hugs to anyone who sticks around afterward. And in some of these, we're even going to film the events as well, so we can have some video footage to use later for different stuff, which will be really fun. But I wanted to go today. I want to talk about the different cities that we're going to, Ryan. Maybe talk about some of our experiences. If we're limited in a city, if we have only one day, like what are some of the things that we do? We can talk about that, and we can also talk about some of our travel routines and what we've learned from many failures over the years of touring. So where do we start? You want to talk about the cities we're going to first?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, cool. So let's see, I'm pulling up theminimalists.com/tour. Join the Minimalists for a night of less. Joshua and Ryan will blah, blah, blah. I already said that. Pre-sale tickets are now on sale, which means our audience gets the best access. Use code MINIMAL. Okay, here it is. We're starting the tour in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We haven't been there since 2014. We had a tour stop there. I think that was our exact midpoint, was Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Was the midpoint of that crazy 100-city tour we did back in 2014.
Really love Pittsburgh, man.
Yeah, I do too. It reminds me a lot of Cincinnati, even though I know their football teams hate each other for some reason.
Well, it's funny because I was going to say, like, it took me forever to, like, actually love Pittsburgh. Like, we would go there to see some concerts when we worked together. Right. And then we went there on tour. I think the first time we went was 2011.
Yeah, it was.
And I think that was the first time I was like, dude, Pittsburgh doesn't suck just because you hate the Steelers.
So to put that in context, you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan.
Yeah, which is the only worst football team to be a fan of is the Bills, which I am also a fan of.
Well, that's right, because your family's from the whole Rochester area.
New York, yeah. Huh. So I'm not like bragging on the Bengals by any stretch, but yeah, there is that rivalry there, and it is so funny to me though how, like, I've let it go now because I just don't put my heart into football, like or my emotion into football, I guess. Yeah. As much as I used to. Yeah. But it is funny though, like when you are into it with a team, yeah, like you do get this disdain for the rivals, right. And like any fan of theirs, it's like you have this like automatic, I hate you.
No, I was the same way. I mean, Michael Jordan still makes my blood boil a little bit when I hear it, just because I'm the only person I know from Dayton, Ohio, who was a Utah Jazz fan, and not just like a little bit of a Utah Jazz fan.
Man.
I mean, I still believe John Stockton is the greatest basketball player of all time.
He does lead in the. He still leads in the 3 of the 5.
Two of the 5, yeah.
Oh,
so he has most steals of all time and the most assists, and there's not anyone who's even close to beating his assist record. And I think his steals record is pretty far off as well. And you look at the people who are second in those categories. I think the second on steals list, Michael Jordan. Second on assists, Magic Johnson. And there may be other people who have displaced the second place person, but John Stockton, in my opinion, is the greatest basketball player of all time.
Wasn't he coaching like a kids team out in Bozeman?
Well, sort of. His daughter was going to Montana State last year.
Oh, it was a college. Okay.
Yeah. And so he was the assistant coach last year. The greatest basketball player of all time was the assistant coach at Montana State University.
That's great,
out in Bozeman, Montana. He lives in Spokane, which is relatively close to us. He's from Spokane, went to Gonzaga. Anyway, So here's how much I love the Utah Jazz. 1998, this is the second finals that they're in. They got beat the previous year by the Bulls. Game 6, Jordan hits that last-minute shot at the buzzer over Brian Russell, who he actually fouled Brian Russell. Let's be honest. But no one tells you about this. He pushes Brian Russell and then steps back, takes that shot, and you see this shot. It's on all the posters. It's his last shot of his NBA career until he came back and played for like the Wizards or whatever. Right. But it was his last shot of that chunk of his career. 23 Jordan, and he fouled Brian Russell and then takes that shot, wins the game. I haven't watched a full NBA game since Game 6 of 1998. Wow. NBA Finals. So yes, I understand your disdain for that. But guess what? I don't hate the city of Chicago, and I don't actually hate Michael Jordan. I do recognize.
And the Steelers, I think, have won the most Super Bowls out of any football team, actually. So if my disdain is anything, it comes from my own insecurities, and I'm just like projecting that.
Yeah. And plus, I recognize that Michael Jordan's the second best basketball player of all time. All right, after that, we've been to 48 states while touring, and there's 2 states we haven't been to. We have not been to Alaska, and we've not been to Vermont, but we'll not be able to say that soon because we're coming to Burlington finally.
Because we're going to Anchorage.
Anchorage, Vermont?
Anchorage, Alaska.
No, we're not.
Oh.
We're not going to Anchorage. I hope to get there. That's not on our list, though.
Oh.
We're going to Burlington, Vermont. That's on April 14th. And April 15th, we're going to Boston. That one's already going to sell out. So if you are anywhere near Boston, if you're in Rhode Island or wherever else, make sure you get your tickets. It's a huge theater, the Wilbur Theater there in Boston. But that one's going to sell out. That one went on sale a little bit earlier. That was the first one we announced. And then after that, we're headed to Portland, Maine, one of my favorite cities. Love that town.
Dude, I'm going to eat so many lobster rolls between Boston and Portland.
Do you think they have lobster in Burlington? Probably not.
Yeah, they do. I'm sure they do.
I mean, they have it everywhere now. But
yeah, Vermont's close enough to the sea. They'll have some lobster rolls there.
It's close enough to Canada.
So tweet me all of your best lobster roll place recommendations. The best place I've eaten at so far, and podcast Sean.
Wait, was it McDonald's in Halifax?
Can attest to this. You shut your mouth when you're talking to me. We went to a place called Luke's Lobster. It's like a small chain in New York.
Yeah.
And it's by far like the best lobster rolls I've had.
We went there in Maryland recently.
I'm not trying to brag, but I've probably had over 100 lobster rolls in my life. And Luke's Lobster is by far the best. So if you got a lobster roll recommendation, hit me up on Twitter at Ryan Nicodemus.
All right, before we move on to the next wave, so that's our first wave of this first leg. So let's talk about how we're doing this. So the first leg is 19 cities. It is basically now through June. And then we're going to take the month of July off altogether. But we're going out for 3 or 4 cities in a row. So it's just a long weekend. Because you and I have learned lessons from being on the road. When we did the crazy 100-city tour in 2014, we were on the road for 10 months. And that takes its toll for sure. We don't want to do that again. So what we're going to do, we're just going out for a long weekend basically, and we'll go out to those 3 or 4 cities in a region, and we're calling that a wave of the tour. And so a thing that I like to do to get a good sense of a city, find the best coffee house in town. So if you have a great coffee house recommendation, make sure you tweet us at the Minimalists, or you can tweet me at JFM or at Ryan Nicodemus. We'd love to hear your coffee house recommendations, but also I love going to an art gallery or museum and see like what's going on in that city via the artistic perspective of the city. Also, quite often we're on tour, we go to independent bookstores, but because we're speaking at a lot of independent bookstores, we're not doing that this time. We're doing fairly large theaters this time around. But if I get a chance, I'll also be going to some of my favorite indie bookshops in a lot of these cities, and I think those are nice little hubs for the city. What else, Ryan? What else do we do when we're in a city that...
That's about it, man. Coffee, bookstore, museum.
Oh, Thai food.
Yeah, I was going to say some kind of ethnic food. Even like, so it was Thai food, but I'm thinking of like, because we don't have great Indian food or Thai food in Missoula, Montana.
No.
Or Ethiopian food. I mean, like the old best. Like Bex will cook some amazing Ethiopian food, or like some of the refugees will make me meals. But like you can't go to a restaurant and get good Ethiopian food. So yeah, Thai food or like even Indian, because like I know how much you hate Indian food. So when you find an Indian food place that you like,
yeah,
it's like a pretty damn awesome Indian place.
Maybe we try that out this time around. We'll find the
best Indian food places.
Yeah, we'll find the Indian food places I hate the least.
Yes. Sounds great.
Actually, I love some Indian food. It's just I don't like the way it makes my clothes smell, and I'm really sensitive to smells. So.
Yeah, but I think Thai food does the same thing to my clothes though. So what's that Indian place in Provo? That's like the best Indian place ever.
Yeah, it is. It is truly great. Provo, Utah. It is Bombay House, I think.
Is it Bombay House?
It might be. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So there's great Indian food in places you wouldn't expect, because when I think of Provo, Utah, I think Indian food. No, not at all. And by the way, we're not going to Provo this time, although we did that a year or so ago.
I'm just throwing that out there in case you're ever passing through Provo, or actually, if you live in Provo, you probably already know about.
Of course, you know. Yeah, for sure. All right, let's take a look here. Next wave, we're calling this the north. So that was the northeast wave. The next wave, we're going to the northwest. So we're going to Missoula. And then we're going to Spokane and Seattle and Portland, Oregon. So that's the other Portland. We're going coast to coast, Portland to Portland, wave to wave there. So Missoula, we're going to be at the Denison Theater. It's a big theater at the University of Montana. If you're anywhere in Montana and you're thinking about coming to see us, this is going to be your one chance, because generally we don't do a lot of talks in our hometown, and this is a good opportunity for you to come out and say hi and listen to us talk, and also help us fill this theater, because it's a massive place. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, it's crazy. Like when we do events in Missoula, it's always people, like, not always, but the vast majority of people who come are not from Missoula.
Yeah, they'll come
but it's because they're
Butte
from like
or Bozeman,
or like they live in Casper, or like they live in somewhere in Idaho, and it's like the closest that we'll ever be to them. But no, I do love doing talks though in our hometown. Yeah, so come on out to that Missoula talk, or Spokane. That's the closest big city to where we are. We'll be in Spokane the very next day, May 10th. Then we're going to be in Seattle and Portland. Really looking forward to both of those. We have great audiences in both cities, and of course, those are like the back-to-back coffee meccas. I'm going to be so freaking caffeinated. I was just going to ask you what your favorite part of the Pacific Northwest is, and that's my answer. Is like
the sushi. There's sushi in Seattle is off the chain, man.
I don't think I've ever had sushi in Seattle.
There's this place in Bellevue I've got to take you to, man. I am blanking on the name. If you go to Yelp and just type in sushi Bellevue, Washington, you'll see the place with the chirashi bowls.
Yeah.
Oh, I want one right now, because we don't have any sushi here where we are. But every time
we do have sushi.
No, we
this
don't.
is Josh.
No, we don't.
I just want all of our listeners out there to know that
cans of sardines are not sushi.
Listen, lady. No, I just want all of our listeners to know that in Missoula, Montana, we live in the city of almost. It's like we have Indian food, and it's almost amazing. We have Thai food. It's almost like the best Thai food. Well, I wouldn't say the best, but it's almost like, hits a spot. Same thing with sushi. It's like they'll have like these amazing dollar sushi nights, and there is some, like, if you make sure to get like a couple, like the yellowfin tuna and like the egg roe, if you like that type of stuff, or not egg roe, just the roe.
Yes. The school of redundancy.
I was using egg roll and roe and combining those two there. But no, they do have the egg. I forget what it's called though. It's called something different when you get into sushi. But anyway, there's like 2 or 3 things you can get that do hit the spot. But for all intents and purposes, like, you can't just go there and get awesome sushi. No. So I don't want to like totally bash the restaurants around here in Missoula. We do have some options, but yeah, man, there are definitely some better options once you get closer to the coast, right?
My favorite restaurant in Missoula is minimalwellness.com. Thankfully, Bex is the best cook I've ever met, and so my partner, like seriously, like it is my favorite restaurant in all of Montana. Is to just have.
Is that your kitchen table?
Yeah, it
Nice.
is I mean, Bex makes.
Dude, she made some awesome Ethiopian stuff the other night.
She made, her halibut is just unbelievable. You gotta come over sometime when she's making halibut.
I insist.
Yeah, it's so good, so good. Anyway, that restaurant is not open to the public. Anyway, then the next wave, we're headed to the upper Midwest, Grand Rapids, Chicago, Madison, and Minneapolis. We haven't been to any of these cities except Chicago since 2014. Grand Rapids, that's the only city we're doing in all of Michigan. So if you're in Detroit, you're in Ann Arbor, you're in Saginaw, you're in Lansing, you're in East Lansing, you're in Flint, you're in Pontiac, come on over to Grand Rapids. We'd love to see you there. I'd love to make it. You know, someday I want to do a tour, Ryan. It's everywhere we've never been. So one of our favorite artists, Austin Hartley Leonard, he has an album or an EP called, it's with that song Ohio on it. Yeah. It's called Everywhere I've Never Been. And I would love to do a tour of like, all right, now we're going to do a tour stop in Saginaw. And now we're going to do a tour stop in College State. What's the city in the middle of Pennsylvania? College Station?
I have no idea.
Yeah, anyway. Am I right, Sean? Yeah, he's nodding his head suspiciously. Or like I want to go to Mobile, Alabama.
Dude, you know where I want to go? Really, we haven't done a stop there. Is Detroit.
Yeah, I know we haven't, and it just didn't work out with this leg. Unfortunately, we were trying to book Detroit. I was working with Andrew, our booking agent. By the way, I got to say thanks to him and thanks to Nicole over at APA, our booking agency. This is the first time we've worked with a booking agent. In the past, Ryan and I would just be like at the kitchen table together, calling up venues.
So talking about lessons we've learned.
Oh man, yeah. Well, let's get to that. Let's hold that thought, please. Put it in your steel trap, Ryan, and we'll come back to it. Yeah, so we'll be in Madison, Minneapolis. We have great audiences in both of those cities. I think we'll get good turnouts. But by the way, if you're in Milwaukee, we weren't able to do Milwaukee. So if you're in Milwaukee, either come down to Chicago or come on over to Madison. Same with if you're anywhere else in Minnesota, Minneapolis is the place to go, right? Because we're going to be there for one night on May 21st. And then and that's a medium-sized venue, so that one, I mean, most of these will sell out relatively quickly, so if you're thinking about getting tickets, now is the time to do it while they're on pre-sale and you have access to them before the general public, because once Live Nation puts it out there and once Ticketmaster puts it out there, these places are going to sell out. And I just want to warn you about that. After that wave, that upper Midwest wave, which we're going there at a good time, Ryan. Late May for the upper Midwest is like, spring is springing.
Spring. Yeah, I like spring.
You know? Like,
some people don't like spring. I love spring.
Yeah, I do too. So you said Missoula is the city of almost. Like we have April and we have May, which is almost spring in Missoula, but it's still kind of winter.
You know what? That's the one thing we don't have. It actually is amazing is the snowboarding. There is no almost. Like this is.
Yeah,
I love this spot for snowboarding. Anyway,
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so
after that, we're going back to Cali.
Yeah, you gotta, Sean. You know where you gotta do. LL Cool J's Back to Cali. Yeah, we are going back to Cali. We got 3 cities on the Cali wave in June. We're going to do San Diego, one of my favorite cities, Los Angeles, which might be my favorite city in the world, and then San Francisco, another one of my favorite cities. We tried to do Sacramento. It just didn't work out in terms of timing, and the venue didn't work out for us. So if you're in Sacramento, would you please be willing to make the 90-minute drive down to San Francisco? We'll make it worth your while. I also, I love Sacramento, Ryan. I think it's like the most slept-on town, maybe if not in America, certainly in California. It reminds me of a Midwest. It's like Minneapolis, but with outstanding weather, and so I really dig. I really dig Sacramento. Sadly, I don't get to go there this time, and neither do you, Ryan. But we're going to be in 3 coastal cities: San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, June 11th, 16th, and 18th, respectively. I'm so looking forward to this. We're spending an extra like 3 or 4 days there in Los Angeles. I'll take you over to the Russian bathhouses while we're there.
Do the cold plunge.
We will do the cold plunge. We will do cryotherapy while we're there. We will explore Griffith Park. We'll explore all the great food.
Yes, I was going to say, now, LA, like, that's when I think of, like, the best sushi I've had in the country.
Yes. Remember we took Sean the first time he ever had sushi?
And we forget the name of the place.
It's in a strip mall in the middle of nowhere. And it was Like, it was unbelievable. It was just melting in my
I know
mouth.
it was on Santa Monica Boulevard, but that's like such a long
Yeah,
street.
that's the whole city.
Yeah.
That's the whole city.
Yeah.
So, yeah, come on out and see us. Those will all sell out for sure. Relatively decent-sized venues, but we have great audiences there. And then the last wave of this first leg, we're going to be back in the Midwest, back on our old stomping grounds. These are 4 cities that I would go to concerts in all the time. So Ryan and I, living in Dayton, Ohio, we were 2 hours from all of these 4 cities. Indianapolis, or actually Columbus was a little bit farther. I'm sorry, Cleveland was a bit farther. So Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland.
You know what's funny? Driving from Cincinnati to Cleveland, like that 3 or 3.5 hour drive, I just like dreaded that drive.
Yes,
but it's fun. It's funny because here in Missoula, like to get to Glacier, it's 3 hours.
To get anywhere from Missoula is
like three and a half
3
hours. I love driving in because it's so beautiful.
Yeah,
we're like in Ohio, it's like strip malls and
it's just flat. It's emphatically flat.
And corn. Yeah,
corn. Yeah, there's who's that? Mark Lehner. Mark Lehner was describing driving through the Midwest in one of his short stories, and the opening page of it was corn, barn, corn.
Where was the Corn Palace at?
That's in South Dakota. That's more of like a corn high school, though.
It's totally worth one visit, though.
No, it's not. It's not worth
it. Yes, it is.
it
is a great experience, a great novelty experience that you will regret, but you'll enjoy regretting it.
Okay, so the Corn Palace is really just a old, like, abandoned high school with corn taped to the side of it.
It's like they just renamed Flea Market and put a bunch of corn decorations everywhere.
Yeah. It's not so much a palace. It's just corn. All right, yeah, and it's in the middle of South Dakota, which we will not be in South Dakota, but stay tuned. All right, so Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland. Indianapolis is the largest venue, so this is so cool. I used to go to concerts at the Egyptian Room to see like Ray LaMontagne. We're going to be speaking at the Egyptian Room. How awesome is that, man?
That is awesome, man.
And we're going to be at Bogart's in Cincinnati. I've seen countless concerts at Bogart's in Cincinnati, and now we get to go talk about minimalism at Bogart's, and I just feel great about that. So Columbus, Cleveland, come out and see us. We're looking forward to seeing you. That's the end of that first leg. And then if you go to theminimalists.com/tour, you can see we're working on 28 potential cities. Now, these cities may change based on venue availability, but subscribe to our email list. That way you can be the first to know about upcoming events. So here are some potential cities we might come to in August through December. So we might hit Canada, Saskatoon, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, Montreal, Ottawa. Ottawa is one of my favorite cities.
Yeah, me too. How solid are we on these cities that we might, like if you're giving me a percentage?
Well, I mean, for any, we're definitely going to be going to some of them. The question just has to do.
Which, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to book a tour, right? And so these are the cities we're trying to book right now. If I had to guess, of these 28, we'll be somewhere between 20 to 25 of them.
Okay.
And then from there, Ottawa and Toronto and Winnipeg. So that's what, 8, 9 cities throughout Canada. We're going to try to hit in August and September, which is, by the way, the best time to be in Canada, August and September. And then from there, we're going to hit the East Coast, New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. Those are the 3 cities we're trying to hit on the East Coast, in that area. And then from there, the Mountain States, Salt Lake City. One of our best cities for turnout is surprisingly Salt Lake City. We just have a lot of people who really resonate with our message there in Utah. So we're going to try our best to get back to Salt Lake and Denver and Albuquerque, which I've not been to in many years, and I love Albuquerque, one of my favorite cities. Yeah. A lot of our documentary, Minimalism, was filmed in Albuquerque, actually. And let's see here. And I haven't been to Albuquerque since
the tour.
Since we filmed the documentary and since that tour.
Me too.
Wow. Yeah, and then Phoenix after that. Huge city, huge crowds there. That'll be great. Back to the Midwest, St. Louis, Kansas City, and Omaha. Going to try to get all 3 of those cities. And then we're headed to the South, Houston, Austin, Dallas, Oklahoma City. Haven't been to any of those places except Dallas since 2014. Louisville, Nashville, Charlotte, Birmingham, Alabama, Atlanta, and Tampa. These are all cities we're going to try to get to. And then, of course, yes, what about Australia? What about Europe and Asia and South America and Africa?
Antarctica.
Yeah, sure. And the 8th continent, Alaska.
Dude, I would totally. Dude, we should like.
At some point, we should do an Anchorage.
Was it Gillibo
tour
who went to every country? Or, no, then he
I'm
went
not going to every country.
No, not every country. Well, that's
Yes,
what I was
he
going to say.
did.
I know I can never talk you into every country, but we could do every continent, and we could totally do something in Antarctica.
Oh man! So
I know we have. I know at least we have one listener out there in Antarctica.
So let's just talk about this. If all goes well in North America, we'd love to take the Less Is Now tour to your country, to your continent, maybe even to Antarctica. So yeah, sign up for our email newsletter list over at theminimalists.com, and you'll be the first to hear about the new events. Now, the reason you couldn't get me to go to every country, Ryan, this is a good segue here, is there are 3 things that I hate. I hate travel, I hate large crowds of people, and I hate public speaking. Now, I don't actually hate those things. Those things make me uncomfortable, especially traveling makes me uncomfortable. In fact, traveling by itself, I find no appeal in it at all. We have one of our best friends is a guy named Colin Wright, world traveler, travels to a new country every 4 months. He loves traveling. Everything he does centers around traveling. Great for him, not great for me. And I think you're somewhere in between. You enjoy travel. You're going to go on vacation to Germany this year. You're going to Tokyo this year. Those are things that don't appeal to me as much. But if we are traveling with a purpose, like these tour stops add value to a lot of people's lives, then I'm all for spending that time wisely, and I'm willing to make that compromise on the travel. And even the compromise on public speaking. I don't actually hate public speaking. It just makes me uncomfortable. I'm not a natural public speaker. And same goes for crowds of people. I'm an introvert. I don't hate people. I just am more comfortable when I'm by myself. But I find the place I grow the most is when I put myself into that discomfort zone. And so touring, for me in the past, has been a great way for me to grow and learn a lot of lessons, and also for us to fail a lot. So let's go back, 5, 6 years, Ryan. Our very first tour. So we started the Minimalists 2010, December 14, 2010. We started the Minimalists. About a year later, a little less than a year later, we went out on just a minimalist meetup tour. We had no plans. Our first tour stop was November of 2011 in St. Petersburg, Florida. We had no plans. We had no speech prepared, and we just booked like coffee shops and really small bookstores and restaurants, and we had small meetups, some as small as 2 people.
Yeah. Well, it was nice because back then, like, we could just be like, "Hey, we're gonna meet at this coffee shop," and would not even really talk to the coffee shop owner.
Yeah, because the crowds are so small, right? I mean,
right.
in some cases it was like, "Hey, a party of 6," because it was us and 4 other people showing up, and so we could do that. And I learned so much from that. That it was like a 1.5 year long tour, basically, or a year-long tour. We went out on these little legs where we'd go out for a week or 2 weeks, sometimes as much as 3 weeks at a time, and we'd just meet at these cars, and we didn't have any money, so we'd often sleep in the car, or we'd sleep at readers' houses or couches, or occasionally we'd spring for a Motel 8. We'd sleep at rest stops sometimes. I remember once we fell asleep in Phoenix, Arizona, outside of Phoenix, between Phoenix and San Diego.
Yeah.
I woke up, and there's a sign right in front of the car. It's like, "Beware of scorpions and snakes."
And beware of venomous creatures.
Oh, my goodness. So we've learned a lot of lessons from that. But I also learned that, you know what, when we booked these venues and as the crowds got larger, it became harder and harder for you and I to book you and me to book the venues.
Well, yeah, it came to our Holiday Happiness Tour, and I remember booking the
that was
venues
That was 2012.
Yeah, so that was my first taste of, oh wow, like when you know that more than 6 people are going to show up.
Yeah.
You've got to book these venues, and it's difficult to find a bookstore that can hold 70, 100, 150 people. And then we went out in 2014, again booked it ourselves. Between you, me, and we had the help of a couple other people, we finally got everything booked. But even then, it was like the Indianapolis experience, where 500 people showed up. It's pouring down rain. They're waiting in line, and the venue could hold 60 people.
Right.
So a doubleheader wouldn't have even have done it for that stop. So that was a huge learning for us. And now we have Andrew, who is like our saving grace with booking. Well, and he's got the experience. We were just kind of,
we were winging it.
We're amateurs.
And you know what, man? It worked for the time, but as it grew, the time when I really realized that this whole thing was actually it was spreading beyond these really small groups of people, was that Holiday Happiness tour. So we have a publicist who actually lives in Toronto, Sarah, and she did a few different things with some newspapers there, and our website traffic had been going up and up and up those first 2 years of the website, and we arrive in Toronto December of 2012, and I'm sleeping on Sarah's floor, a publicist's floor. We're alternate. You and I are alternating.
We were
between
sharing
her couch and the floor.
The love seat.
Oh yeah. So I couldn't. I'm 6'2", man, and trying to fit on a. But we were grateful for what we had. We had a blanket.
So grateful.
And we shared what we had, and it had to work. And talk about compromising. We just didn't have the money to stay at hotels back then. And thankfully now we'll sell tickets to our tours now, and we can pay for hotels. We can also do really cool things, like we're building an orphanage with some of the proceeds from the Less Is Now tour. So the Boston event, all the pre-sale stuff, 100% of the pre-sale is going to build an orphanage on the U.S.-Mexico border. So we can do really cool stuff with the money as well. But we can also stay in hotels and have our own bed and be well rested, which is a nice bonus, right?
Yeah, and we can rent Lamborghinis.
Wait, you rented a Lamborghini?
No. Sean, cancel that reservation.
Yeah, so
did you see Sean go to make a note?
He did.
He was like, oh wait, he's joking.
He just crossed out the word Lamborghini. Yeah, I mean, that's the important thing. Like when we make money from stuff like this, we don't do it to do stuff like buy a Lamborghini. But yeah, we will travel. Right. And we'll also
it's a little bit more comfortable, and
we make it more comfortable, but it allows us to go to more cities to do that as well. Yeah. Anyway, while we were there in Toronto, we show up to this. Our event was at a co-working space, if you recall, and
I do. It was. We got to give a shout out to Erica and Melissa.
Yes, Erica and Melissa definitely helped us out, book the venue there. They worked in the same building. They booked this co-working space that maybe fit 80 people, and we knew we could cram 100, 120 people into the space. And the problem is we show up and there's another event going on there that night, and there's this line out the door for this other event. And I'm like, what? Is there a concert going on here or something? And I'm like, oh God, where's Erica? Like, none of our people are going to be able to get in, because we're anticipating 60, 80, maybe even 100 people are going to show up to this, and they're going to think they're at the wrong place because they're at this other event. And so there's this line out the door and a line up 5 flights of stairs to get to the top of where this co-working space is, and we're walking through it, and finally I'm walking through all this crowd, and I look at Melissa, and I'm like, hey, what is this line here? Why are all these people here? What other event is going on tonight? Why have we scheduled this the same night as our event? And she looks at me with this look like, you moron, these people are here to see you guys. And that's when I knew, like, oh my goodness, I don't know how many people were there that night.
It was like 300, 350.
Yeah, hundreds of people just snaked around the stairwell and around the building. And so we not only had to do a double header, but we had to find like a
up to that point, like I think that was our biggest
without a doubt
event, yeah.
Without a doubt. And they were growing before then, but like it sort of grew exponentially. And then from there, it continued to grow. But we started doing this when there were 2 people showing up. So I remember being in Knoxville, the 4th tour stop we ever did, your birth city, I should say. We showed up, no one was there. It's this coffee shop.
We were getting ready to leave.
Yeah, we were walking out the door, and all of a sudden, hey, you guys are the Minimalists. And all of a sudden, I'm like, yes, we are.
Yeah.
And it was just a couple, and it was one of the best conversations we ever had. It was a guy who he fasted for 40 days.
Yeah.
He had lost hundreds of pounds in doing that, and he was talking about how minimalism had saved his life, like literally saved his life, helped him refocus on his health.
I will never forget him telling us about that experience, because, he was talking about real hunger. He's like, you don't eat for the first half of the day, and you're like, man, I'm hungry. And like you might even get a little hangry. And he goes, and then the second day, like, it's maybe you still get hungry, but after the 3rd or 4th day, it's like when you juice fast, I guess. Like you get
at some point the hanger goes away.
Yes, exactly.
I'm getting a little hangry right now, actually.
And long story short, he's like, you don't know true hunger until you haven't eaten in like 30 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was crazy.
Yeah, apparently, like, so at some point he stopped being hungry, but then he hit that point once again where he's like, okay, my body's eating stuff it shouldn't be eating.
Right.
And you know, obviously you don't want to do a fast like that without assistance from a doctor or something like that. But anyway, yeah, so I've learned so much. In fact, a lot of the lessons we learned what stories resonated with people while we were on the tour, Ryan. We learned what, and that eventually made it into our book, Everything That Remains, because we would go out on the road and start talking to people about these stories. And the things that really resonate, like the packing party, or my mother's dealing with her sentimental items. For me, at first, those were just sort of afterthoughts. Like, that's in the past. Let's just talk about intentionality, and let's talk about decluttering or whatever. But it was like, these are true stories that people resonate with. And so a lot of those stories made it into Everything That Remains. And I wouldn't have known that had we not gone out on those tour stops with 2 to 12 people showing up, and it allowed us to have deeper conversations. And that's why, in fact, with all of these events, we're doing the VIP events beforehand. We're just a few dozen people will have access to those people, and we can have more intimate conversations with them, as opposed to doing so I'll give you an example. Let's say we're going to be in Boston on April 15th. So that event starts probably at like 7 o'clock or so, or the doors open at 7. But right around 5 p.m., we'll do a VIP event for 45 minutes where we'll just sit in a room with that small group of people, and we'll have some discussions. And I'm really eager to see what we learn from those discussions and how we can move that forward. So we'll have some questions we want to ask them and get some dialogue going, but we won't have a whole lot of prepared material. We'll have prepared discussions, really jump-off points that we can learn from you, just like we did 6 years ago. We learned from the audience, and we really grew from that. And it allowed us to create some really great stuff in the future, whether it was Everything That Remains or the documentary or whatever. It allows us to create something beautiful because we incorporated other people's perspectives. So if you want to participate in that process, then you definitely want to get involved with the pre-sale, because usually those VIP event tickets, they go away during the pre-sale. Let's see, after the Holiday Happiness Tour in 2012, Ryan, 2013 we did 2 very, very small tours, like micro tours. Do you remember these? We did Spring into Minimalism, which was like 6 cities, and we were driving down South by Southwest with me, you, and Colin.
Was with us?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we did Denver, and we did what else did we do besides
Denver? Austin, we did Houston, we did what?
Yeah.
And Austin, Houston, Dallas even, right? Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I remember because we stayed with the family in Fort Worth.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we did a thing in Dallas.
I feel like there was one. It was Missoula. We did Missoula.
Yeah, Missoula. Yeah,
there were 6 cities, and that was just a short tour we did with Colin. Hopefully, we can drag Colin around for 1 or 2 of these tour stops. And we'll have some surprise guests at some of these as well. I'm going to be reaching out to some folks who we may have as super secret surprise guests, and we won't reveal it until the day they show up. And maybe even some musical acts. That was one thing that I really liked from the 2014 tour. We had some people I'm big fans of who were who opened up for us on the road and performed music, and like I used to pay to go to their concerts, and now they're performing with us, and it adds just an extra layer of beauty to the event whenever we can do that. We try to just make it a special night for everyone, a unique experience for everyone, not just giving a talk or answering questions. That's important, but giving hugs and creating a musical atmosphere and an aesthetic atmosphere, a visual atmosphere for everyone, so that you have the best experience, and hopefully it's a catalyst for change in your life. So we did that Spring in the Minimalism Tour, and then we did our shortest tour ever, Ryan, the 2013 Alberta, Canada tour. It was 2 cities.
We did Edmonton and Calgary.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Which was crazy because right when we left Calgary, remember the flood hit?
Yes. Yeah, so that was 2013,
man.
and it was like 2 weeks or a week after that, right?
Yeah.
And man, we're gonna get back to both of those cities hopefully for that second leg of the tour. I love Alberta. I mean, it's like Montana on steroids, especially go out to Banff.
Dude.
Speaking of Banff, so in 2014 we did the 100-city tour, 8 countries, 119 events. We've talked about that ad nauseum. That was crazy. A lot of learnings from that. But the next year, 2015, the word tasting tour. We did 35 cities, but that one was totally different experience from what we've done in the past. So you and I run a publishing company with our friend Colin Wright called Asymmetrical Press, and we dragged some of our authors on the road, Sean Mahalik and Josh Wagner, and me and you and Colin.
Was that 6 weeks, 8 weeks? How long was that?
Yeah, it was a couple months.
Yeah.
A couple months. And we did 35 cities, but you and I, we divided and conquered that one because we were kind of done with touring for a while. And so you'd go out and do a handful of cities, and we did a bunch of like random cities, like Butte. Did we do Butte? I think we did Butte.
Yep, definitely did Butte.
You went to that one.
No,
we didn't do Butte.
We did Billings.
Yeah, we did Billings. We did Kalispell.
Yeah, Sky Steel hooked it up with Banff.
Yeah, we did. So I was just thinking of Montana. We did Missoula and Hamilton. Really random places. Great Falls. And then we went up to Canada and did Calgary and Edmonton. I went to those stops. You went to all the Montana stops. I went to the Canada stops. And then we drove over. My first time I ever been to Victoria, and that was
wasn't on that.
Yeah,
one.
I made. So you have to like drive
Victoria's
on a ferry.
awesome.
And it was really awesome. I wish I would have had more time in Vancouver
Jarvis,
Island.
he still lives out there, right?
Yeah, we spent some time with him, or I spent some time with him while I was out there. Paul Jarvis, who's a really talented creator. He does some great like creative classes, helps creative people be more creative. I think it's just pauljarvis.com, or we'll just put a link to his name in the show notes. Really great guy. He helps creators be more creative. Just a wonderful person as well. Yeah, but he's out there on Vancouver Island. We went to Vancouver, which we'll try to get back to Vancouver this year. And
Love
then
Vancouver.
We went to a bunch of random places. Like you said, we went to Banff. That one was weird, man. I was at that one, and it was 8 people showed up. It's Banff. It was a pop-up show we did. And there were like only 8 people there, and there were like 8 of us, on tour. So we also had Sky Steel, who created the music, a musician friend of ours. He plays a violin, and he sings, and he plays guitar. He does a lot of. He creates a beautiful experience.
He's got the best. So he plays violin for people who don't know. He plays violin for Vanessa Carlton, and the way that they met is like your like movie scenario where Sky was playing in a bar. I think in Hamilton. Yeah, it was in Hamilton,
Montana.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Playing in Hamilton, Montana. Just to give you guys some context, what's the population? I'm gonna look it up real quick. Hamilton, Montana.
If I had to guess, I'm going to say 13,000.
All right, I'm going to guess 7,000. It is 4,500. So just to give you all like a little perspective, this is a town of 4,500 people.
Yeah.
He's playing in a bar. Vanessa Carlton happens to be there.
Yeah.
Because she's got some family or friends there. And like went up to him afterwards, and she was like, "You have to go on tour with me."
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, man. I saw Vanessa Carlton in Chicago in November of 2006, and it was the first tour he ever went on with her, and he was playing violin for her.
Oh, that's awesome! And so
I had no idea who he was.
That's
By the way, he doesn't live in Montana.
No.
He lived in Brooklyn at the time.
Yeah.
She lives in Manhattan. He lives in Nashville now. Very talented musician. Check out his music wherever you get fine digital music. Sky Steel. We'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. But he went on tour with us, created this whole audio landscape, this audio atmosphere, the audio aesthetics of touring, and I learned a lot about that through that process. And it was all of us in a rented van, smelling like guys.
like guys. Yeah, I mean,
and because we have a few female authors, but they are far more responsible than us guys. And they couldn't go on the tour with us because they have actual commitments, and we've let go of all of our commitments, and so we just hit the road for that period of time, something like 35 cities, and we rotated on and off, did some random cities, and then came back to Montana. But I learned a lot about the sort of audio experience and creating a better experience given the resources you have. Now, some of the venues were like in Banff was a bar. And so people are like talking over you, but creating the best. And by the way, that was an even better experience for someone like Sean Mahalik, who's a very talented novelist, but doesn't have a lot of experience at live events because people don't go to readings that often. And so him having to read in a bar in Banff over people talking, invaluable experience.
Oh yeah.
Because it's a failure. It's by definition it's a failure, right? But it's not really a failure because you succeed from that lesson that you've learned. And then, last year we went on the documentary tour. We did 15 cities over the course of a month or so.
That was great.
And screened the documentary. We did a live version of our podcast in some of those cities, which you can go back and listen to in our podcast feed. And now this year, 2017, we've got 2 legs of the tour for North America. And then if all that goes well, we hope to make it overseas as well. Any closing thoughts here, Ryan, about the tour? Anything else you're looking forward to? Is there a city you're looking forward to the most? Is there a city you're disappointed that we can't make it to?
Lobster rolls, man. That is the number one thing I'm looking forward to.
Lobster roll, Massachusetts.
Yes,
my favorite city.
No, man. What's the most important? What's the one thing that you bring on tour that's the most important to you?
Oh yeah, my hair dryer.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But actually, so in the documentary, I've had so many people ask about what's the bag that you use, and we talked about this on a previous podcast. It's a Malcolm Fontier bag. It's no longer made. So in the documentary, we have a little segment in the documentary of packing like the minimalist. You can see a longer version of that video on our YouTube channel. YouTube.com/theminimalist. It's called Pack Like the Minimalist. So I packed for 10 months in one carry-on bag, Malcolm Fontier bag.
So I guess the bag is probably the most important thing to bring with you.
The bag is probably the most important thing I own.
Yeah. Okay. So inside the bag. Actually, no. I guess the bag. That's a good answer. But
here's the thing. So Malcolm might be bringing that bag back. Sean, can you put a link to that in the show? I think it's just on his website.
Yeah, he finally got a hold of us, and he's like, "Hey, I see a lot of buzz around this."
I've had over 1,000 people contact me about that bag.
Yeah, and he's like, if people are interested, have him sign up for this, an email alert, essentially.
Yeah. So if he decides to make it again in the future,
he can get a hold of you.
He's going to make you didn't know this, but he told me when I was talking to him on the phone. So when me, you, and Colin were on tour on the Spring into Minimalism tour 2013, we all had that same Malcolm Fontier bag, right?
Yes.
There were 3 bags. You open our trunk, and there's 3 of that same bag in the trunk, right? We had literally exactly 1% of all bags that were ever made of that bag.
Oh, really?
He produced only, because he did it as an art project, basically.
I didn't realize
he
that.
produced only 300 bags.
Oh, wow.
And so he'll probably do it again in the future, and if he does, it'll I don't know if it'll be limited to 300 or whatever, but it will certainly be limited.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, you don't need another bag in your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Just so you know.
Yeah, if you think a bag is going to complete you, you're probably wrong. Now, if you're at a stage where you're like, I just broke my Patagonia bag, I've had it for 14 years, I'm now in the market for another bag, it might be a good bag for you, but it may not be a good fat bag for you as well. It's really up to you to determine whether or not it will add value to your life.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was probably the most important thing. I mean, I don't pack a whole lot. This pair of pants I'm wearing, I'll wear throughout the entire tour.
Yeah.
So I'll pack a pair of shorts to exercise in. I will pack. I'll pack a week's worth of t-shirts, week's worth of underwear, a week's worth of socks. Unless it's summertime, then I'll just wear a pair of Toms with no logos on them and call it a day, man.
Coffee kit.
Oh, yes, thank you.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, well, even like we're going to Chicago here soon, and for a talk we're giving, and we're gonna do some like media stuff up there.
Yeah. In fact, when this comes out, we'll be on.
We'll be in Chicago.
Windy City Live as well.
Oh yeah, that's right. But what I was gonna say is like, I know there's awesome coffee in Chicago. So I don't necessarily need to bring the coffee kit, but like staying at an Airbnb or a hotel or something, I still need the coffee kit because like, I mean, hotel coffee's all right, but it's so much nicer, man, when you got some like good beans.
So much better.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's the one thing I'm not really embarrassed to admit I'm addicted to.
Yeah, I mean, there are far worse things to be addicted to, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so addiction is also a weakness, but
but not when it comes to coffee. All right, Josh, let's move on.
Fair enough. Well, we usually do. Actually, you know what? We'd love to hear about your experiences with traveling. So if you have a comment or tip about minimalist travel, give us a call, 406-219-7839. Or you can also send us a voice memo now. podcast@theminimalists.com is the email address. You just record a voice memo on your phone, send it over to us. We will record we will air our favorite tips and tricks about travel or touring or whatever your comments are about today.
Yes.
Leave us a voicemail or send us a voice memo. We will air our favorites on a following upcoming episode. All right, Ryan, do you want to move on to right here, right now? Actually, before that, added value. Do you have anything that's added value to your life recently?
Yes. Every time I recommend something that's over $100, I really feel bad about it. But I got the new AirPods. Game changer.
AirPods. So let's talk about AirPods. I have a pair as well.
So AirPods.
I was going to recommend this last episode, but I waited because I knew you were getting value from it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
For sure.
So think of the regular earbuds that come with your iPhone.
Yes. You know those are actually called earpods?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay, so think about the earpods that come with your iPhone. Remove all the wires. And yeah, it's like the first because I got a pair, because when I'm listening to music, whether I'm riding my bike like just to the store, or if I am listening to music on the plane and I've got the cords, I will inevitably like rip them out of my ears.
I do the same thing.
I hate that, man. Or like Mariah and I will be sharing them on the airplane and we'll rip them out of each other's ears.
Right.
So, yeah, long story short, like this takes the cords out, and it is the only thing I don't like about it. You can't turn the volume up you have to like go to your phone to turn the volume up
Not
or
true.
turn down. I mean, you can use Siri, but dude, you can't. Siri's unavailable on an airplane.
Right.
So it's a little bit inconvenient, but because they work so well, that's why I like them. It's not. I mean, the Bluetooth feature is great, but they're stereo Bluetooth, and it has good sound quality. Like you haven't complained about me being on my ear. Every time I call Josh on speakerphone or earphones, he's like, Ryan, it sounds like you're skydiving. Please put me on your regular phone, which is fine.
It sounds like you're skydiving with a sock on your phone.
Yeah. So with these, like, I've got no complaints on the microphone. And my actual what are the earpods? Yeah. My earpods actually broke, and I was just gonna get another pair of earpods, and I realized that when I'm looking for them, I was like, oh my god, they have like earpods without the cords.
Yeah.
So and they're a little eggsy. Now, Josh, that is an abbreviated version of expensive.
What does abbreviated mean?
But at the end of the day, totally adds value to my life.
Man, you know what I really like about them, and I am a sucker for aesthetics. But they're they're beautiful. But the little case that you put, the storage case, which I have in my pocket right here. Let me pull it out. It's in my pocket. Here we go. So I'm holding this white little. It looks like a floss pack, right? In fact, Ella has confused it as floss. She likes to play with floss, although we've stopped her from playing. She pretends floss is a snake, and but when I open it.
Charged.
It shows you the
regular,
charge.
Yeah.
But then when I remove the ear pod, and so the right one is on the right side, so it's very aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
But when I take it out of my ear, when I put it in my ear, it's going to make a little sound. Boom. Yeah. And then when I put it back in here, there's the most satisfying little clip. Let me see if I can get this on the mic. It clicks into place. That is so satisfying. And then when I close the cover, same thing.
Oh man, that is so satisfying. 1, 2, 3.
It is. I mean, all of my OCD needs have been met today just by these AirPods. And this is not an advertisement. You all know we don't do advertisements, right? We refuse to take money for advertisements. We've turned down tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars for advertisements because they don't align. I don't want to have to recommend something just because I have to recommend it. And so I can recommend something like this. And I've been trying it for a while. I've gotten a lot of value from it. Everyone I've talked to have used it has enjoyed it as well.
What do you have to say to all the conspiracy theorists out there who are like, you guys are just trying to indoctrinate us with Apple products?
Yeah, well, some conspiracies are true. Next question. No, I have no brand loyalty. I think brand loyalty is a sign of weakness.
Yeah, I just recommend things that I really enjoy. Yeah, and I have things that that are useful, high quality, and I really enjoy them. And
so like Apple has their writing program called Pages. I've used that in the past, but I use their better programs now. So I use
Google Docs.
I use Google Docs,
yeah.
And but I love the thing I write in most now is actually the Apple Memo Pad. But if something else comes along better, I don't have brand loyalty. Brand loyalty actually weakens the product. Our friend Colin Wright talks about
actually
this.
That's why Apple their quality has kind of decreased over the last several years
for certain products, especially with like certain software things, or they're trying to like appeal to the masses, and therefore the features that were once useful to people who had a specific use are no longer there, so they can appeal to the masses. Anyway, yes, the AirPods add immense value to my life too. Thanks for recommending that, Ryan. I have only 3 recommendations. Let's see here. Actually, I'll just give 2 of these. Since we're talking about tour waves, I got that idea, waves, from John Mayer. So he put out an album this year. He just put out the second wave of this album. It's called The Search for Everything, Wave 2. I don't like it as much as the first wave. I love the first wave. Really dig that second wave. And it's one of the songs on there is very Montana, the second song on there. I think it's called like a wave emoji or something. Anyway, Wave 2 of Search for Everything by John Mayer. Get that wherever you get good digital music. And then
every time I see on our tour page Future Legs,
yes,
it cracks me up. I don't know. I'm just picturing like bionic legs or something.
I need to hurry up and wrap this up because I have to go to the bathroom so bad.
All right.
Another podcast I've been listening to a lot recently, the Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast. If you lead an organization or a group of people, or you're an aspiring leader, he leads a whole bunch of churches in the Oklahoma area. Now, I am not a religious person personally, but it is a secular podcast in terms of he's just a great leader and uses great strategies to lead other people in an effective but also moral way, in a way that will align with your values and help you be a more effective leader. We'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. Move on real quick to right here, right now, Ryan. A few things that are going on. Our good friend Matt Diavella is producing a web series called Making Minimalism. He's the director of our documentary, which is called Minimalism, a documentary about the important things. He's going behind the scenes of that documentary. It's all free. You can find it on his website, mattdiavella.com/minimalism. We'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. Also, every Monday from March 6th through April 10th, and including April 10th, we are doing Mondays with the Minimalists on Facebook Live and Instagram Live. We just did our first session this week. It's 2 p.m. Eastern Time every Monday. We're going to answer your questions. We'll talk about what's going on in the lives of the Minimalists. And I really loved what we did. I don't know if we'll keep that format up. Maybe we'll change it up a bit. But we were driving around town, and it was so fun to answer questions. Well, don't worry, I wasn't looking at the phone. Sean was holding the phone and asking us questions, and you and I just got to drive around and sort of have conversations. It was like, what's that Jerry Seinfeld thing? Since I sound like Jerry Seinfeld, apparently. He does coffee and cars with comedians or something.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like that, but without comedians, without coffee.
No, I had coffee.
Oh, you did have coffee.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a coffee next time, too. That's a good call. Let's do that next time. So, yeah, join us Mondays with the Minimalists every Tuesday, March 6th through April 10th, 2 p.m. Eastern. Also, I'm teaching a one-day writing workshop online. It's called How to Write Better. Seats are limited, I think, to the first 300 people. It's online. It's a very attenuated version of my 4-week writing class. You can find both of those at howtowritebetter.org. I want to help you write better business emails, better books, better blog posts. I just want to help you write better. And I think I can do that just by breaking down my recipe, how I learned to write better, and find ways to give those ingredients to you so you can create your own recipe for better writing. All right, we've been talking the whole time about the tour, so I'm not going to talk any more about that. Just go to theminimalists.com/tour for tickets and cities. Also, this month, I'm doing a daily Instagram essay. Every day, posting a beautiful photo and an essay with that photo over at the Minimalists Instagram account. It's just at the Minimalists, and that's all I got right now. Ryan, you got anything else for us?
Yeah, man, here, I got some of this. Here, it's brand new, shiny voicemail comments and tips from our listeners.
Hi, my name is Robin, and I'm from Arizona, and I'm on my way back from California, where I spent some time with my cousin, and we watched the Minimalist movie. It's my third time seeing it, but her first time seeing it. She needed to see it. But, it dawned on me that I have 3 children, and the oldest is 33, and the youngest is 24. And I have 2 grandchildren, 18 months and 1 month, boys. And I have a great networking community of friends now, and also when my kids were growing up. And watching your movie this third time, it made me think about how many times I said to my friends, how can we slow down? We want to do some things. We don't have the time to do it. We're constantly behind. We're trying to think ahead or trying to prepare for the future. And it was a question that came up continuously while my kids were growing up about how to slow down, how to live, how to have a life. And after watching your movie this third time, I finally saw the answer. I really believe the answer was that we all just had too much stuff. Our kids had too much stuff. And by stuff, I just mean belongings, things we had to maintain, things we had to do. And I think that if we could have known then what I know now, I think our lives would have been so much different, and we would have been able to see the forest for the trees. We would have been able to see how we could have slowed down and had coffee with each other, in the morning, and not feel like, we had to clean our house, or we, had to run out and do this errand or get this or get that, when we already had enough. We already had plenty.
So my name is Hannah, and I live in Altamont Springs, Florida. Hey guys, I just wanted to share kind of a neat story. I have a friend who just started a shoemaking business where he makes custom leather boots, and he offered to make me a pair for free because I was his friend and had helped him out with some things in the past. Well, at the time, we lived in Michigan, and since then, I've moved to Florida. So lately, I've been listening to your podcast, and it caused me to rethink boots situation. It just doesn't make any sense for me to own a pair of awesome custom-made hand boots that I will rarely ever wear living in Florida. It would make a lot more sense for someone in Michigan to have them where they'll be worn all the time. So I talked to my friend, and fortunately he hadn't started making my boots yet, so I asked him if instead he would make them for someone else. And he said that he actually had someone in mind that he knew was in need and would really appreciate them. So even though it hurt a little bit to give away a really amazing pair of high-quality handcrafted shoes, which are technically minimalism friendly, it still didn't make any sense for me to own them, as they wouldn't genuinely add much value to my life by sitting on the floor getting dusty all year. Instead, they're going to be blessing someone else who will be genuinely enjoying them. So it's a win-win-win for me, my friend, and the person who will be getting the pair of boots.
Hey, Joshua and Ryan. This is Adam from Massachusetts. Thank you both so much for all that you do to help simplify and add value to people's lives. I have a few digital tools that have helped me reduce the traffic of messages and lists we so often lose or perhaps mismanage on a daily basis. The first is Google Keep, which is a sticky note application to help you add dates and times to remind you of upcoming tasks that may not warrant a calendar invite, such as dropping off a letter or even making grocery lists. The notes can be archived when they're done, so it's less of an inbox look to it, although the archive can be searched at a later time if need be. The second tool is called Unroll.me, which is an email service for most common email providers, and it shows you every list to which your email is currently associated. Once you give the service permission to access your email, I've used this service for years, by the way, and I've had no negative experiences with it, and it's free. You can unsubscribe from any and all lists there on this single site, or you can choose to keep them in your inbox. And lastly, you can, quote, roll them up into a single daily email from the Unroll.me service. Perhaps coolest of all is that it shows you when you're added to new email lists, so that it's a sustainable resource to add to your life. The last tool is more of a shift in behavior with respect to digital activity. So recently I removed all non-value-adding applications and push notifications from my phone, and I began doing all of my major work assignments first thing in the morning at work as opposed to checking emails. Both of these behavior switches have added tremendous time to my life for valuable activities and output in both professional and personal capacities. Anyways, I hope that these tips help your listeners as theirs have helped me in the past as well.
All right, y'all, that's it for this episode. If you have a question for the Minimalists, give us a call, 406-219-7839. And if you leave here with just one message, we hope it's this: love people, and use things, because the opposite never works. Thanks for listening, y'all.
We'll see you next time.
Every little thing you think that you need, every little thing you think that you need, every little thing that's just feeding your greed. Oh, I bet that you'd be fine without it. Every little thing that you gotta have, every little thing that you gotta have, you gotta reach for, and you gotta grab. Oh, I bet that you'd be fine without it. So tear your eyes away, or tear